Alright guys, let's try with one more of these, a bit more fundamental niche type video where we're trying to get some details unveiled about Vintage Cube. And yeah, as the title says, today I've picked 7 cards that I find kind of fringe, and I want to highlight when they are worth it and where they excel. We can start from the left here. Manifold Key is a card that, if you play Vintage, you know it combos with Time Vault. Time Vault is not in the cube. It was in the cube like 8 years ago and was the best card in the cube. It wasn't fun. Ending the game with a 2-card combo is not necessarily fun. But it's still in the cube to this day. I believe back then it was Voltaic Key, but same point really, except it has one more line of text here. Target creature can be blocked this turn, which is a niche ability and will never be the reason why I'm playing it. So that's going to be just something you keep in mind if you're playing with it or against it. All of a sudden, the opponent can have an unblockable creature and win the game. So it's the activate 1 tap untap target artifact ability that we're going to be looking at today. So I decided to list the 2 monoliths, the Wandering and Manifold, as reasons, or as proper targets to untap with Manifold Key. And I would say I would never play Manifold Key unless I had 2 or more of these cards. I'm sure there are more, but 2 or more cards that it synergizes well with. And if my deck cares about my artifact count to begin with, could be something like Valerian Academy, Urza Saga, Karn, Urza. That's a plus. But rule of thumb, needs to combo with 2 of these cards, or just don't play it. It's not going to be worth a card. Next up, we have Delayed Blast Fireball, which is obviously a good 3-mana play against aggressive decks like Mono White or Mono Red. 3 mana, 2 damage to each opponent and each creature. But then it has the Foretell ability for 6 mana. Once you've already paid 2, and it's in exile for 6 mana, then you can cast it, and then you kind of get the big mode of 5 damage to everything, right? So that is cool and all, but we need to focus in on this part of the card. If this spell was cast from exile, not if this card was cast from Foretold or whatever, it deals 5 damage to each creature. So, with red being in the design space that it is, we have cards like Inti. Inti exiles card from the top of your deck. You can cast it. Chandra's +1 exiles the top card of your library. You may cast that card. Lelia, exile the top card of your deck. You may cast that card until end of turn. So, all of a sudden, you have more ways to pay only 3 mana but still deal 5 to everything on the opponent's side of the table, including their life total. So, Delayed Blast Fireball can definitely be worth it. I think at one point I had a deck that could even Mystical Tutor up Delayed Blast Fireball before. Can't remember if it was Chandra or Lelia, but I could set it up, and that was just like living the dream. But so just know that this card deals 5 to everything if you cast it from exile, no matter if it's Foretold or not. The bread and butter being it sweeps, aggressive draws for 3 mana. Next up is this card, Vampire Hex Mage, which most people know is a combo with Dark Depths. You remove all the counters, you get a 20/20 flying indestructible creature, you hopefully win the game, right? So that is quite niche. So another way to make mileage out of this card is having it in your sideboard. You speculated, you didn't get there. You have it in your sideboard and you play against the deck with Planeswalkers. Good examples are Teferi or Minskin, because these cards will run away with the game, and maybe a 2/1 that is like built-in Planeswalker removal is going to be fine. More niche case is something like killing a Walking Ballista or something, but I think killing Planeswalkers is the most likely one. With Minskin, you can even respond to the enter the battlefield trigger here and kill kill the Planeswalker rather, and just leave the opponent with a 1/1, which is a decent exchange. I'll take any day of the week. So Vampire Hex Mage can be a reasonable sideboard card in Vintage Cube when you don't get there on the Dark Depths. Now we have the Mightstone and Weakstone, which is a card I really don't like, but that's kind of beyond the point of this video. So 5 mana, you can either draw 2 or deal -5/-5 to a creature, and there's like a not very flexible mana rock, right? So in order to register this card, we need, for instance, a card like Workshop can make that card into a 3-drop, so that's a lot better rate, right? So Workshop helps. If you're looking to go really big and actually want to be able to cast your Mere Battle Spheres of the world, your Portals of Rexus of the world, it is a decent way. Like, remember, this cube used to have like Thran Dynamo, etc. So it is like a Thran Dynamo type card. And especially if you have like Tinker Portal, but you want a little bit of failsafe in case you draw the portal, could be worth it. Not alone, but it could be a factor. Then there's another one here, Chromho Seed Shark. Chromho Seed Shark will be very happy if you cast a 5-drop. Chromho Seed Shark cares about artifacts to the extent that, you know, it builds artifacts, so it can go in some artifact synergistic type deck. That can make the Mightstone worth it. Then we have Displacer Kitten. Displacer Kitten is a card that combos very well with Coveted Jewel, but poor man's Coveted Jewel is kind of this Mightstone or Weak Stone, so if you can cast anything and blink in order to draw 2 cards, or kill an opposing creature, that's also fine. And then to round it out here, we have just, you know, bounce with upside and touch the Spirit Realm, with which can, you know, exile it and it returns end of turn. So all of a sudden you have a 2-mana draw 2 or 2-mana kill a creature, which is way better rate. So a lot of these combined, well, some of these combined will make it worth playing the card. I can't really put a good number to it, but let's say you have like an artifact deck with Workshop and Portal, I'll probably run this card simply because it synergizes so well with 2 cards. Up next is Silen Safekeeper. My good friend Ole Rode from Sweden, his invitational card, and that is kind of a weird one in the cube. So if you have played Legacy, you'll be thinking, oh, okay, this is like protect your Merit Lage, protect your Hogak type card, but I think in general, this card is a card that combos very well with Titania. The sacrifice a land activated ability is incredibly potent with Titania. So that's definitely one to look out for. Another one is Balance. You can sacrifice all your lands if you want to either that or Zuran Orb. Actually, Zuran Orb maybe should have been on this list as well, but here we are. Sacrifice all your lands, cast a Balance. You can set up some very good situations where you know, float mana, deploy stuff afterwards. So basically, just the ability to sacrifice your lands, and, you know, get creative here. Nadu is another good one, actually, recent edition. I forgot about that on the list. Sometimes it's worth it to sacrifice in order to get a Nadu trigger off. And yeah, I mean, this card is very niche. I'm not sure it should be in the cube, but it's good to look out for these synergies. Now for another narrow one, we have Gush. Gush is a restricted draw spell from Vintage, which didn't age very well. In Vintage, it only sees plays in Doomsday these days, so that's also why I put Doomsday as the first synergistic card here. So you set up your deck, and you either already have the Gush, or you draw Gush next turn, and all of a sudden you can win on the spot. Drawing 2 cards for 0 mana is very strong when you're trying to combo out the opponent. So yeah, that's one of the best synergies. Then we have just Third Path Iconoclast, basically saying, okay, if I have something that rewards me for casting an instant in this case, I get a 1/1. If I'm very low to the ground, I play Isid Tempo. Could be worth it. Other good examples of that would be like Prowess cards, kind of the same thing. Not always going to make my Isid Third Path Iconoclast deck, but sometimes it will. Then we have Psychic Frog. The reason why that is on a list is because Gush will return 2 lands to your hand and draw you 2 cards. So that's 1 card for 4 new cards. Psychic Frog likes that a lot, just like Psychotog back in the day. Kind of niche, but could come up where you're like, oh, now I have a big frog. I play against, what do I know, red-green, where they only have damage-based removal. And all of a sudden, that's relevant. And then we have Chromho Seed Shark again, like 0 mana to draw 2 cards and get a 5/5. I'll take it. That would be awesome. Seed Shark is a reason to register Gush. So I'll say out of these, the Doomsday in itself is good enough reason to register Gush. The others, you need like a couple in order to justify it, in my opinion. The last card on this list is Thought Scour, which is a card that is not, you know, like, it doesn't offer any selection, so you need to take advantage of the mill. So if you randomly hit a big reanimation target, sure, so I'll run it in my Dimir Reanimator deck, basically because 1 mana to draw a card is not good, but the upside of hitting something great is very strong. If you have a Delve spell, I think it's only Dig Through Time that's a Delve spell in this cube. Randomly having a Ritual, which I always call it for my Dig Through Time, is serviceable. Another one here is we have Doomsday again, because Thought Scour is a card that can reduce your deck size by 3 for only 1 mana, so that's also potent. Post Doomsday, I cast Doomsday, I mill over 2 cards, I draw 1, I cast Thassa's Oracle, the game's over, right? So pretty cool there. And then the reason why I have Underworld Breach on here is if you don't manage to find the Brain Freeze, but you have like all the other pieces, let's say you have LED, Underworld Breach, and then Thought Scour is just a card that can randomly mill out your opponent as a poor man's Brain Freeze in a longer game. Also, we have to realize that we have to, pay 1 blue mana every time and escape 3 cards every time. So not the perfect, but it's still some kind of a backup to an Underworld Breach kill that tries to go infinite. So I don't know. I think this topic was kind of cool. I was thinking about it, and then I was like, Manifold Key, that's kind of niche. What was the other card? Yeah, Silen Safekeeper. But then I just, dug out some more cards that more often than not, unfortunately, ends up in people's sideboards, but maybe this video can help you register the card and have good use of it more in the future. That's the purpose anyway. All right, let me guys know what you're missing, or what your favorite Fringe card is, and some synergy I didn't think about. And yeah, I'll happily take a look at the comments. And if not, then that's also fine. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.